Street Boy noticed the signs everyone ignored and made the rich man's daughter walk again. Michael Thompson was breaking down in tears as doctors rushed through the halls of the most expensive hospital in New York City. His only daughter, Emily, had stopped walking overnight, with no medical explanation that the country's top specialists could find. It was during one of those desperate afternoons that Michael noticed a barefoot boy watching through the waiting room glass. The child, who couldn't have been more than 10, seemed to live on the streets, but his steady gaze on his daughter in the wheelchair caught his attention in a strange way. "Sir, are you the little blonde girl's daddy?" the boy asked when Michael stepped out for air. Michael turned, surprised. How did this child know about Emily? "Who are you?" the businessman questioned, instinctively stepping back. "My name is Ethan, sir. I see a lot of things adults don't notice, and I saw what happened to your daughter in the park that day." Michael's blood ran cold. No one but him, the driver, and the doctors knew about the incident in Central Park 3 months ago. The day Emily, playing happily as always, suddenly collapsed and could never move her legs again. "What park? What are you talking about?" Michael tried to deflect, but his voice trembled. Ethan moved closer, lowering his voice like someone sharing an important secret. "Your daughter was chasing a yellow butterfly when she saw a woman sitting on the bench, a woman with brown hair, wearing a blue dress. Emily stopped running right then, frozen as she stared at her, and then whispered something only I could hear." Michael felt the world spin. The boy was describing the exact scene, with details even he hadn't noticed in the chaos of that moment. "What did she whisper?" he asked, barely breathing. "She said, 'Mommy came back,' real soft, and then her legs stopped working." The revelation hit Michael like a punch to the gut. Emily didn't know her mother was alive. Jennifer had left when the girl was just 2, choosing an international piano career over her family. To protect his daughter, Michael had told her that her mom had gone far away and would never return. It was easier than explaining abandonment to a child so young. "You're making this up," Michael stammered, but he already knew the boy was telling the truth. "You lie very well to others, but you can't lie to your own heart," Ethan replied with wisdom beyond his years. "Your daughter found out something about her mom, didn't she? And now she can't walk because she doesn't know how to face the truth." Michael took a step back, feeling exposed before this child, who seemed to see right through him. "How could you know these things?" "Because I was paralyzed too, sir. Not in my legs, but inside. When I found out my parents hadn't gone on a trip like my aunt said, but that they had left forever, I stood still in the same place for months, until I realized the truth, no matter how painful, is the only thing that sets us free to walk again." The boy's words echoed in Michael's mind. For the past 3 months, every medical test showed Emily was perfectly healthy. Neurologists, orthopedic specialists, physical therapists, none could find a physical reason for her paralysis. And now a street boy was suggesting the problem was emotional. "Your daughter needs someone who understands her pain," Ethan continued. "Doctors only know how to treat the body, but who's going to mend the broken heart?" Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. That night, Michael came home with his mind buzzing with thoughts. The mansion on the Upper East Side, which once represented his success, now felt like a monument to his loneliness. Emily was in her room upstairs, as always, being cared for by Margaret, the housekeeper who had worked for the family for over 15 years. "How is she today?" Michael asked, climbing the marble stairs that echoed his solitary footsteps. "The same, Mr. Thompson," Margaret replied sadly. "She didn't want to eat properly again. Just keeps staring out the window, as if waiting for something." Michael entered his daughter's room, decorated in shades of pink and white, filled with expensive toys she hadn't touched in months. Emily sat in her wheelchair, small and fragile, gazing through the large window overlooking the garden. "Daddy?" she called without turning. "I'm here, Princess." "Today I dreamed about yellow butterflies again." Michael's heart clenched. It was always the same dream since that day in the park. Yellow butterflies that carried her to places she couldn't reach. "Would you like me to read you a story?" Emily shook her head, still staring out the window. Michael stepped closer and followed her gaze. At the mansion's gate, illuminated by the streetlight, stood Ethan. The boy did nothing but look toward the window like a silent guardian. "Who is that boy, Daddy?" Michael hesitated. How could he explain that a street kid claimed to know the secret that could heal his daughter? "He's just a boy who cares about you." "He understands me," Emily said softly. "When he looks at me, it's not with pity. It's different." In the following days, Ethan kept appearing. The mansion's security tried to chase him away several times, but the boy always returned. He never asked for anything, never approached the gate. He just watched, as if his presence alone was enough. Michael hired a private investigator to learn more about the boy. The report he received left him unsettled. Ethan Walker Davis, 9 years old, orphaned for 2 years. His parents had indeed died in a car accident, and since then the boy had lived on the streets of downtown Manhattan. He attended public school when he could, was known to help other homeless children, and had never gotten into trouble. But what caught Michael's attention most was a note at the end of the report. The minor displays emotional intelligence above average for his age, likely developed as a survival mechanism after the trauma of losing his parents. "Margaret," Michael called the housekeeper the next morning, "bring me the boy at the gate. I want to talk to him." Margaret hesitated, but obeyed. Minutes later, Ethan entered the mansion for the first time, his bare feet contrasting with the polished marble floors. Despite the glaring social divide, the boy didn't seem intimidated. His eyes immediately searched the staircase as if he knew exactly where to find Emily. "Is she in her room?" he asked. "How do you know?" "Very beautiful places sometimes trap people, Mr. Thompson. Your daughter is trapped in that room not because her legs don't work, but because she's afraid to walk and discover more things that will hurt her." The boy's insight was startling. Michael led him to the library, a room filled with expensive books that likely cost more than Ethan saw in an entire year. "What do you want from me?" Michael asked directly. "I want to help your daughter, but you need to stop lying to her." "I don't lie to my daughter." Ethan stared at him with those eyes that seemed too old for his age. "You're lying about her mom, and she knows you're lying. That's why she can't trust that her legs will work again. If her own father won't tell the truth, how can she believe she'll ever stand up?" Michael felt as if he were being judged by a one-person jury. And the worst part was that the judge was a child who had lost everything, yet still possessed a clarity he, a successful 45-year-old man, lacked. "Her mom is dead to us," Michael said sharply. "But she's not really dead," Ethan replied without hesitation. "And Emily found out. She discovered something, didn't she? Letters, photos, her mom's phone ringing. Something that proved the story you told wasn't true." Michael's silence was answer enough. Ethan continued, "When you find out the person you love most in the world lied to you, it's like the ground disappears beneath your feet. Only in Emily's case, the ground really did vanish. You're saying her paralysis is... It's her body's way of showing how she feels inside, paralyzed, not knowing which way to go, unable to take the next step." Michael sank into the leather armchair, feeling the weight of 3 months of agony and guilt crashing down on him. Ethan's explanation made more sense than all the medical reports combined. "So what do I do? First, you need to figure out how she found out about her mum. Second, you have to decide whether you'll keep lying or find the courage to tell the truth. And third..." Ethan hesitated for the first time. "Third, maybe it's time to find her mom." The suggestion struck like lightning. Michael hadn't spoken to Jennifer in over 4 years. The last he'd heard of her was in a classical music magazine, where she was featured as the lead pianist for a symphony orchestra in Vienna. Jennifer had achieved what she'd always dreamed of, international recognition, but she had never tried to contact her daughter again. "She doesn't care about Emily," Michael said bitterly. "Or maybe she cares so much she'd rather stay away to avoid hurting her more. Sometimes, Mr. Thompson, people distance themselves not because they love less, but because they love too much and are afraid of ruining everything." Before Michael could respond, they heard a noise from upstairs. Margaret came running down the stairs. "Mr. Thompson, little Emily fell from her chair trying to stand up. She was screaming that she wanted to talk to the boy." Ethan was the first to rush up, Taking the stairs two at a time, Michael followed, finding Emily on the floor of her room, trying to push herself up with her arms. Tears streamed down her small face. "Ethan!" she cried when she saw him. "You came!" Ethan knelt beside her, helping her sit up against the bed. "I'm here, Emily. What happened?" "I moved my big toe," she said between sobs. "But when I tried to stand, my legs wouldn't listen. It's like they're mad at me." Ethan smiled gently. "They're not mad. They're scared. Just like you." "Scared of what?" Ethan looked at Michael as if asking permission. The businessman nodded, realizing the time had come for a conversation he'd been putting off for 3 months. "Scared of the truth about your mommy," Ethan said softly. Emily stopped crying instantly, her blue eyes fixed on him with startling intensity. "You know about Mommy? I know you found out she didn't go to heaven like your daddy said. I know you found something that showed she's alive somewhere else." Emily looked at her father, who had gone completely pale. "I found the letters," she whispered, "in the attic inside an old box. Letters that Mommy sent asking about me, and there were photos of her playing piano in beautiful places." Michael closed his eyes, feeling defeated. For 3 years, Emily had believed her mother was in heaven. Discovering the truth through hidden letters had been a devastating shock for a 5-year-old. "Why didn't you tell me you knew?" Michael asked, moving closer to his daughter. "Because I thought if you were lying, it meant I'd done something really bad. That's why Mommy didn't want to see me," Emily began, sobbing again. "And if I can't even make my own mother want me, then I don't deserve to walk. I don't deserve to go after the things I want." The silence that followed was broken only by the little girl's sobs. Michael felt as if he was seeing his daughter for the first time in years, not just the sweet child he shielded from the world, but a small, fragile human being who had carried the weight of unbearable pain all alone. It was Ethan who broke the silence. "Emily, I'm going to tell you something about my parents. When they left, I also thought it was my fault. I thought if I'd been a better boy, more obedient, more loving, they wouldn't have gone away." "And it wasn't your fault?" Emily asked. "No. And your mommy leaving wasn't your fault either. Sometimes grown-ups make choices that hurt children, but that doesn't mean the children did anything wrong." "Then why did she leave?" Ethan looked at Michael, understanding this was a question only her father could answer. Michael took a deep breath and knelt beside his daughter. "Your mother left because she had a very big dream of playing piano for the whole world, and she thought she had to choose between that dream and staying with you. She chose the dream, and that hurt our hearts very much. But does she still love me?" I believe she does, but she's afraid to come back and find out you won't forgive her." Emily fell silent for a few minutes, processing the information. Ethan stayed by her side, holding her small hand. "Ethan, did your legs stop working when you found out about your parents?" "Not my legs, but my heart stopped for a long time. I couldn't feel happiness, or the urge to play, or hope that things would get better." "And how did you make your heart start working again?" "I had to accept that my parents were gone forever, but that the love they felt for me would never leave. And I had to decide whether to spend the rest of my life stuck in sadness or use that love to help other people who were hurting like me." Emily looked down at her own legs, motionless under her white dress. "Do you think if I forgive Mommy, my legs will work again? I think if you forgive your Mommy and Daddy for lying, your heart will feel lighter, and when the heart feels lighter, the whole body does too." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. In the days that followed, the household dynamic changed completely. Ethan began visiting Emily every day after school, always under Margaret's supervision. The boy never asked for anything more than a glass of water and a piece of fruit, politely refusing any attempt by Michael to give him money or new clothes. "I don't need those things now, Mr. Thompson," he'd always say. "After Emily is walking again, then we can talk about other things." Ethan's presence brought a subtle but noticeable shift in Emily's mood. She began eating with an appetite again and started asking questions about the world outside the mansion. I wanted to know what the public school Ethan attended was like, how he survived on the streets if there were other kids like them. "Ethan, "Are you afraid of sleeping on the street?" she asked one afternoon while they were putting together a puzzle in her room. At first I was really scared, but then I realized there are two kinds of fear: the fear that protects us from real danger and the fear that keeps us from living. The first one is good, the second one just gets in the way. What kind of fear do you think my legs have? Ethan stopped working on the puzzle and looked straight into Emily's eyes. "I think your legs are afraid of taking you places where you might get hurt again. They believe that by keeping you still, they're protecting you. But I want to walk, even if it's dangerous. Then you need to talk to your legs, explain to them that staying still is more dangerous than walking." Emily laughed for the first time in months. "How am I supposed to talk to my legs?" "The same way you'd talk to a friend who's really scared, with kindness, with patience, promising you'll take good care of them." That night, Michael found Emily whispering to her own legs before bed. She gently stroked her thighs and calves, murmuring words of affection and encouragement. The scene was so touching that Michael had to step away from the door to keep from crying. During dinner, Ethan was invited to stay for the first time. Margaret had prepared a special dish, and the boy sat at the mahogany table where Michael usually dined alone since the separation. "Ethan, can I ask you something?" Michael said as he cut his meat. "Of course, Mr. Thompson. How did you learn to understand people like that? You're a child, but you speak like an adult with a lot of experience." Ethan chewed slowly before answering. "On the street, you learn quickly how to read people. If you don't know who'll help you and who'll hurt you, you don't survive. And after my parents were gone, I started paying attention to the other orphans, the kids who suffered like me. We helped each other by talking, sharing what we felt. That's how I learned that pain is the same for everyone, rich or poor. And you never felt angry about losing your parents so young?" "I was really angry. For months I was even angry at God. But anger is like a fire inside you. If you feed it too much, it burns everything. If you don't feed it at all, it goes out. The trick is to let it burn only what needs to be burned and use the warmth to keep you warm when it's cold." Emily, who had been listening quietly, asked a question that surprised them both. "Ethan, do you think my mommy is angry at me for being born and ruining her plans?" The boy stopped eating and chose his words carefully. "Emily, when someone leaves because of a dream, they're not running away from you. They're running towards something. It's different. People who run away from someone don't want to hear about them. People who chase a dream always wonder if the person they left behind is okay." "How do you know she wonders about me?" Ethan looked at Michael, who nodded almost imperceptibly. "Because your daddy keeps all the letters she sends asking about you. If she didn't care, she wouldn't write." Emily turned to her father, her eyes wide. "She sends letters? Always?" Michael swallowed hard. It was time for another hard truth. "Yes, Princess. She sends letters twice a year, on your birthday and at Christmas. She always asks how you are, if you're healthy, if you're happy, and she always says she thinks about you every day." "Why did you never show me the letters?" "Because I was afraid it would hurt you more. I thought it would be easier if you believed she didn't care." Emily was silent for a few minutes. When he spoke again, his voice was different, more mature. "Daddy, were you protecting your heart or mine?" The question hit Michael like a slap. He realized he had lied to his daughter, not just to protect her, but to shield himself from the pain of knowing Jennifer still thought about them. "Both," he admitted honestly. "I was protecting both, but mostly mine." "And now?" Emily asked. "Now, I think it's time to stop protecting our hearts from the truth." Ethan smiled, sensing something important had changed during that dinner. Michael was no longer just the wealthy man who lied to protect his daughter. He was becoming a father willing to face the truth, no matter how painful it might be. After dinner, while Margaret cleaned the kitchen, the three of them went out to the mansion's garden. It was a clear night, with stars visible despite New York City's light pollution. Michael carried Emily to a garden chair, while Ethan sat on the grass beside her. "Ethan, can you teach me that prayer you used to say for your parents when you missed them?" Emily asked. "It wasn't really a prayer, Emily, more like a conversation. I talked to them as if they could hear me from somewhere far away." "And do you think they heard you?" "I think love is the only thing in the world that never dies. So in some way, yes, I believe they did." Emily looked up at the starry sky. Daddy, do you think if I talked to Mommy like that, she'd hear me from wherever she is? Michael felt a lump in his throat. The simplicity of the question hid an emotional depth that moved him deeply. I think so, Princess. And I think she'd be very happy to know you're thinking of her. Emily closed her eyes and began to whisper, as if sharing a secret with the stars. Mommy, it's Emily. I know you're far away, chasing your dream of playing piano. Daddy told me you send letters asking about me. I wanted you to know I'm not mad at you for leaving. I understand that sometimes people need to go far to find who they really are, but I really want to meet you again, to see who you've become, and for you to see who I'm becoming. Emily's voice grew shakier as she continued. My legs stopped working when I found out you weren't in heaven. I think they got as confused as I was, but Ethan is teaching me that confusion is normal when we discover new truths, and that what matters isn't never being confused but learning to walk even when we are. Michael was silently crying, realizing his 5-year-old daughter was displaying an emotional maturity many adults lacked. Ethan stayed quiet, respecting the intimate moment between father and daughter. Mommy, if you still think about me like Daddy said, I want you to know I love you even without really knowing you. And I'll learn to walk again, not just with my legs, but with my heart too. So one day when you're ready, I can run to you. When Emily finished speaking, a deep silence settled over the garden. It was the kind of silence that follows something sacred. Michael leaned down and kissed his daughter's forehead. I love you so much, Princess. I love you too, Daddy. And I'm not mad at you anymore for lying. I understand you wanted to protect me. Ethan stood up from the grass and stretched. I think it's time for me to go, he said. Ethan, can you stay here tonight? Emily asked. Margaret can prepare the guest room. The boy hesitated, glancing at Michael. If your father agrees, I'll stay. Michael nodded, realizing Ethan had become more than just a visitor. He was a temporary member of the family, someone helping to heal wounds even he didn't know existed. That night, for the first time in 3 months, Emily slept through the night without nightmares. In the next room, Ethan also slept soundly, in a soft bed for the first time in 2 years. And downstairs, Mr. Thompson spent the night writing a letter to Jennifer. The next morning at breakfast, Mr. Thompson showed the letter to Emily and Ethan. I wrote to your mom, he told his daughter. I told her what happened to your legs and how Ethan helped us understand it wasn't a medical issue. I asked if she'd like to talk to you. Emily held the letter with both hands, as if it were a treasure. Are you really going to send it? If you want me to. What if she doesn't answer? Mr. Thompson looked at Ethan, who nodded encouragingly. If she doesn't answer, we'll keep living. We'll keep working to help you walk again, and we'll keep loving each other and being honest. Her answer won't change who we are together. Emily smiled, and for the first time since the incident in the park, it was a full, genuine smile. Then send the letter, Daddy. Mr. Thompson sealed the envelope and gave it to Margaret to mail. It was a step into the unknown, but for the first time in months he felt they were moving in the right direction. 3 days later, something unexpected happened. Emily was in the garden with Ethan, trying physical therapy exercises that felt more like play, when she suddenly shouted, Ethan, I felt something. The boy was a few feet away, playing with a ball. He ran to her immediately. What did you feel? A tickle in my left knee, she said excitedly. It's been 3 months since I felt anything in my legs. Ethan knelt beside the wheelchair and gently touched Emily's knee. Can you feel me touching here? Emily concentrated hard. Not much, but it's different than before. Before it was like my leg didn't exist. Now it's like it's asleep and starting to wake up. Ethan grinned. That's a really good sign, Emily. Your body is starting to trust again. Trust what? Trust that it's safe to feel. When we get hurt badly, sometimes our bodies stop feeling to protect us. But when we start healing inside, the body understands it can feel again without danger. Emily tried to move her leg but still couldn't. Instead of getting frustrated, as she might have days earlier, she smiled. At least it's a start. Mr. Thompson, who had watched from the office window, rushed down to the garden. What happened? I heard you shouting. "Daddy, I felt a tickle in my leg," Emily announced triumphantly. Mr. Thompson knelt beside his daughter, hardly believing what he was hearing. A tickle meant the nerves were working. It was the first physical sign of improvement since the paralysis began. "Let's call Dr. Miller," he said, referring to the neurologist overseeing Emily's care. "No, Daddy," Emily said calmly. "I want to wait a little longer. I want to see what else happens." Ethan nodded in agreement. Sometimes it's better to let the body heal at its own pace. If you push too hard, it might get scared again. Mr. Thompson hesitated but agreed. Ethan had been right about so many things. Maybe his intuition was worth trusting here too. That afternoon, while Emily napped in her room, Mr. Thompson and Ethan had an important talk in the office. "Ethan, I need to ask you something," Mr. Thompson said, pouring the boy a glass of juice. "Why are you doing this? Why are you helping my daughter?" Ethan sipped his juice slowly before answering. "When my parents left, I felt really lost. There were days when I didn't even know if it was worth going on living. And then I met a woman downtown, Mrs. Johnson. She had also lost a child, and instead of just being sad, she started taking care of kids like me. She said something I'll never forget." "What did she say?" "She said we can turn our pain into two things, into anger that destroys or into love that builds, and that the choice is always ours." Michael nodded, impressed by the boy's depth. "And you chose to turn your pain into love." "I chose to use my pain to help others who are suffering like I did. When I see Emily, I remember how it felt to be lost and scared. And I know if someone had helped me back then, maybe I wouldn't have suffered so much." "Ethan, you saved my daughter. How can I thank you?" The boy smiled with a wisdom that belied his age. "Mr. Thompson, Emily isn't saved yet. She's on the path to healing, but there's still a lot to work through. And when she's completely healed, then we can talk about gratitude." "What do you mean by a lot to work through?" "The letter you sent to her mom. If she responds, it'll bring great joy, but it'll also open new wounds. Emily will have to face feelings she didn't even know existed, and so will you." Michael realized Ethan was right. They were just at the beginning of a process that could be even more complicated than they imagined. "And if Jennifer wants to see Emily?" Michael asked. "And if she doesn't?" Ethan countered. "Both possibilities will shake you up. That's why it's important for Emily to be steady on her feet before facing either." As if listening to the conversation, Emily called from upstairs, "Daddy! Ethan! Come here, quick!" The two rushed up and found Emily sitting on the bed, her eyes shining with excitement. "I moved my toes," she announced. "Look." Michael and Ethan approached the bed and saw indeed the toes on Emily's right foot slowly twitching. It was a small movement, barely noticeable, but it was happening. "Oh my goodness," Michael exclaimed. "Emily, you're moving your toes." Emily tried to move her whole foot, but couldn't yet. Her toes, however, responded to her commands. "It's like my feet are coming back little by little," she said. "First the itching came back, now the toes. Do you think more will come back tomorrow?" Ethan sat on the edge of the bed. "Maybe. But remember what we talked about, not pushing too hard." "I remember. I won't force it. I'll let my legs decide when they're ready." That night, Michael called Dr. Miller and reported his daughter's progress. The doctor was surprised and asked to see her the next day, but he also warned against getting hopes too high. "Mr. Thompson," the neurologist said over the phone, "with psychosomatic paralysis, it's common to have progress and setbacks. The important thing is to keep up the care and not pressure the child." Michael thanked him and hung up, but one worry lingered in his mind. What if Emily started walking again only to relapse? What if the progress was temporary? Ethan, who was helping Margaret set the dinner table, noticed Michael's troubled expression. "What did the doctor say that worried you?" the boy asked. "He said there could be setbacks, that Emily might improve and then get worse again." Ethan nodded as if expecting this. "It's true. Emotional healing isn't a straight line that only goes up. It's more like stairs. We climb a few steps, sometimes go down one or two, but in the end, we're higher than where we started." "How do you know these things, Ethan?" "Because I went through this. There were days when I thought I was doing better, that I didn't miss my parents as much. Then out of nowhere, something would remind me of them, and I'd feel just as sad as the first day. It took me a while to understand that this was normal. Michael sat down beside the boy at the kitchen table. "And when did you realize you were truly healed?" "I don't think I'll ever be completely healed, Mr. Thompson. The longing for my parents will always be with me. But I've learned to live with it in a way that doesn't paralyze me anymore. It's different." Ethan's answer made Michael reflect on his own relationship with pain. 4 years ago, when Jennifer left, he too had been emotionally paralyzed. He couldn't connect with others, couldn't trust, couldn't even imagine a future where he'd be happy again. And he realized that in a way, he'd passed that paralysis on to Emily. "Ethan, do you think I need to heal too?" he asked honestly. The boy looked at him with those piercing eyes. "Mr. Thompson, everyone who's ever loved someone who left needs to heal. The difference is some adults get so busy taking care of others that they forget to take care of themselves. And how do I heal? The same way Emily is healing, by stopping pretending it doesn't hurt and starting to feel the pain for real, by stopping the lies and starting to speak the truth, by stopping fearing the future and starting to build it one day at a time." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing, the next day an unexpected package arrived. The mail delivered an international letter with a stamp from Vienna. Michael immediately recognized Jennifer's elegant handwriting. "Is it from Mommy?" Emily asked, seeing the envelope in her father's hands. "Yes," Michael confirmed, his hands trembling slightly. Ethan, who was present at the time, suggested, "How about we read it together? That way, if it's difficult news, we face it together." Michael agreed and carefully opened the envelope. The letter was written on luxurious hotel stationery, in the same handwriting he remembered from years ago. "My dear Michael and my little Emily, receiving your letter was like a hurricane in my heart. For 4 years I've been sending letters asking about Emily, and you never responded. I took your silence as confirmation that it was better for me not to be part of your lives. Learning that my daughter is going through this struggle and that I might be one of the causes has shattered me completely. I've cancelled all my tour commitments and am returning to the United States. I'll arrive in New York City next Thursday. Michael, I know I have so much to explain and so much to apologize for. I know my choices hurt you, and I know I have no right to ask for forgiveness after all this time. But I have to try. Emily, if you're hearing this letter being read, know that not a single day has passed in all these years when I haven't thought of you. Know that your baby face is engraved in my soul, and every song I play on the piano is a love song for you. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect a second chance. I only hope for the opportunity to look into your eyes and tell you the truth about why I left and how much I love you. With all the love a remorseful heart can hold, Jennifer." The silence that followed the reading of the letter was deafening. Emily's eyes were wide, processing the news that she'd see her mother for the first time in her conscious memory. Michael was pale, reliving all the feelings he'd tried to bury 4 years ago. Ethan was the first to speak. "How are you both feeling?" Emily tried to speak, but only a whisper escaped her throat. "Thursday is the day after tomorrow." Michael nodded, also without the voice to respond properly. "Daddy," Emily finally said, "are you scared?" Michael looked at his daughter and decided to be completely honest. "I'm terrified, Princess." "Me too," she admitted. "But it's a different kind of fear than the fear in my legs. It's a fear mixed with hope." Ethan smiled at Emily's definition. "That's the best kind of fear. The fear that comes with hope is the fear that makes us grow." Michael carefully folded the letter and tucked it into his shirt pocket, close to his heart. "Ethan, will you be here on Thursday?" he asked. "If you want me to, I'll stay." "We do," Emily answered immediately. "I need you here when I meet my mom." The rest of the day passed in a haze of anxiety and anticipation. Emily managed to move a few more toes, but she was clearly nervous and distracted. Michael cancelled all his work meetings, unable to focus on anything but the upcoming reunion. On Wednesday, the day before Jennifer's arrival, something extraordinary happened. Emily was in the garden with Ethan, trying to do her physical therapy exercises, when she suddenly shouted, "Ethan, I felt my thigh." The boy immediately dropped what he was doing and ran to her. "Really? Where exactly?" Emily pointed to her right thigh. "Here. It's like there's an ant crawling inside my leg." Ethan gently touched the spot. "Can you feel my hand?" Emily closed her eyes to concentrate. "A little. It's kind of weird, like it's far away." "Emily, do you know what this means? The feeling is moving up your leg. It's not just your toes anymore." Michael, who had left his office upon hearing the shouts, rushed into the garden. "What happened now?" "The feeling is moving up Emily's leg," Ethan announced excitedly. Michael knelt beside his daughter and gently touched her thigh. Emily smiled. "Daddy, I can feel you touching me. It's faint, but I feel it." The businessman couldn't hold back his tears. After 3 months of total paralysis, seeing his daughter regain sensation in her legs was almost a miracle. "Princess, you're getting better." "I know, Daddy. And do you know why I think it's happening right now?" "Why?" "Because tomorrow I'm going to meet Mommy, and I don't want to meet her sitting in a wheelchair. I want her to see me as I really am, a girl who knows how to walk." Ethan and Michael exchanged glances, struck by the connection Emily had made between emotional and physical healing. "Do you think you'll be able to walk by tomorrow?" Michael asked. "I don't know, Daddy, but I'll try. Not to impress Mommy, but to show her that I'm strong, that even when I was sad and scared, I didn't give up." That night, Emily barely slept from excitement. Ethan slept in the next room in case she needed anything, and Michael spent the night pacing the house, too nervous to rest. On Thursday morning, Jennifer called from the airport saying she had arrived and asking if she could come to the house at 2 in the afternoon. Michael agreed, but his voice trembled with nerves. Emily spent the entire morning trying to move her legs. She could now feel almost their entire length, and her toes responded perfectly to her commands. But she still couldn't move her whole legs or make any movement that would help her stand. "Ethan, what if she arrives and I'm still in the wheelchair?" Emily asked, clearly anxious. "Emily, your mum isn't coming back to see if you can walk or not. She's coming back to meet who you are. And you are a brave, smart and loving girl whether you walk or not. But I really wanted to show her that I'm strong. You already are strong. You spent 3 months with paralyzed legs and never gave up trying to get better. You found out your daddy lied about your mom, and instead of getting angry, you tried to understand why. That's stronger than walking." At exactly 2 o'clock, the doorbell of the mansion rang. Michael, Emily and Ethan were in the living room, all visibly nervous. Margaret went to answer the door and returned accompanied by a woman Michael recognized immediately, though she also looked different. Jennifer had aged gracefully. Her brown hair now had streaks of gray, and there were fine lines around her green eyes. She wore a simple yet elegant dress and carried only a small purse, but what stood out most was her expression, a mix of nervousness, hope, and regret that mirrored exactly what Michael was feeling. "Hi," was the first word she managed to say, standing at the entrance of the room. Emily sat in her wheelchair, staring intently at the woman she had imagined so many times, but who was now here, real and tangible. Ethan stayed by her side, discreetly holding her hand for support. Michael slowly stood up. "Jennifer." "Michael," she replied, her voice trembling. The silence that followed was broken by Emily. "You're my mom." It wasn't a question. It was a quiet acknowledgement, as if she were recognizing someone she had known for a long time. Jennifer stepped forward cautiously, as if approaching a frightened animal that might bolt at any moment. "I am," she confirmed, kneeling in front of the wheelchair to meet her daughter's eyes. "And you're Emily, my beautiful girl who grew up without me." "Why did you leave?" Emily asked directly, without hesitation. The question everyone had been waiting for had finally been spoken. Jennifer took a deep breath before answering, "Because I was too young and too scared. Because I thought I had to choose between being your mum or being a pianist. And because I made the wrong choice." What was the right choice? The right choice was finding a way to be both, to be your mom and still follow my dream. But I was too immature to understand that back then. Emily studied her mother's face for a moment. "Do you regret it?" "Every single day of my life," Jennifer answered without hesitation. I don't regret pursuing my music, but I do regret thinking I had to abandon you to do it. Ethan, who had stayed quiet until then, asked a question. And now? Are you ready to be a mom and a pianist at the same time? Jennifer looked at the boy, recognizing his importance in Emily's life. You must be Ethan. Michael told me about you in his letter, about how you've been helping our daughter. I'm Ethan, he confirmed. And I asked if you're ready because Emily needs to know if you're here to stay or if you'll leave again when things get hard. The boy's direct question took Jennifer by surprise, but she understood the deep wisdom behind it. Ethan, I cancelled an international tour that had been planned for 2 years. I gave up contracts worth millions of dollars. I came here without even knowing if Michael would let me see Emily. Does that answer your question? Ethan nodded, satisfied. It does. But Emily needs to hear it too. Jennifer turned back to her daughter. Emily, I didn't come here for a visit. I came to stay. If you and your daddy will let me, I want to be part of your lives again. Really, every day, not just when it's convenient. Emily remained silent for a few minutes, processing everything she was hearing. Finally, she said, Mom, I want to show you something. With great effort and concentration, Emily managed to move not just her toes, but also slightly flex her ankles. It was a small but visible movement. 3 months ago, I couldn't move anything in my legs, she explained. The doctors didn't know why, but Ethan discovered that my legs stopped working when I found out you were alive and hadn't come to see me. Jennifer brought her hands to her face, clearly shocked. Oh my God, Emily, don't be sad, Emily said quickly. I'm getting better. Every day I feel more in my legs. And do you know why I think I'm improving? Why? Because I'm learning that love doesn't disappear just because people leave. Love stays inside us. And when we understand that, we don't have to be afraid anymore. Jennifer began to cry and Michael stepped closer to the group, also moved. Emily, Jennifer said through tears, you're wiser at 5 than I was at 25. How did you learn these things? Emily pointed to Ethan. Ethan taught me. He lost his parents forever, but he found a way to turn sadness into help for others. He showed me that we can be sad without being paralyzed. Ethan blushed slightly at the praise but remained serious. Emily, now that your mom is here, do you still want to keep trying to walk? The question took everyone by surprise. What do you mean? Michael asked. Ethan turned to him. Mr. Thompson, sometimes when we get what we've been wanting so badly, our body relaxes and stops fighting. Emily was pushing herself to walk partly to show her mum she was strong. Now that her mum is here and has already seen she's strong, maybe her legs will decide they don't need to try so hard anymore. Ethan's observation was insightful and a little unsettling. What if Jennifer's presence made Emily regress? I still want to walk, Emily said with determination. But now I want to walk for me, not to prove anything to anyone. As if her words had magic power, something extraordinary happened. Emily managed to slightly bend her right knee. Look, she shouted. I bent my knee. Everyone gathered closer to see. It was a small but undeniable movement. Emily was regaining control of her legs. Jennifer held her daughter's hand. Can I help you with something? Can I do exercises with you? Yes, Emily replied. You can hold my hand and tell me about the places where you played piano. When I hear beautiful stories, my legs get braver. And so Jennifer began to talk about the theaters where she had performed, the orchestras she had played with, the countries she had visited. As she spoke, she held Emily's hand tightly, and Emily, in turn, could move more and more parts of her legs. Michael watched the scene with a mix of complex emotions, happiness at seeing his daughter improve, nervousness about having Jennifer back in their lives, gratitude that Ethan had made it all possible. Ethan, noticing Michael's inner conflict, approached him. Mr. Thompson, how are you feeling? Michael took a deep breath. Confused, happy, scared, relieved, all at once. That's normal. You're healing too, just like Emily. Only your healing doesn't show in your legs. What do you mean? You're learning to trust again, to believe it's possible to love someone without being afraid they'll leave. That's as hard as learning to walk again. Michael looked at Ethan with renewed admiration. How do you understand these things, Ethan? because I had to learn too. After my parents were gone, I became very afraid of liking other people. I thought if I cared too much, they would leave too. But Mrs. Johnson taught me that we can't stop loving out of fear of loss, because love is the only thing that makes life worth living. At that moment, Emily interrupted the conversation. "Daddy! Ethan! Look!" Everyone turned to see her. Emily had managed to extend her right leg almost completely. It was still a shaky and slow movement, but it was real progress. "Oh my God!" Jennifer exclaimed. "Emily, you're doing it." "I am," she said, grinning widely. "And you know what's the most amazing part? It doesn't hurt. For 3 months I thought walking would hurt, but it doesn't at all. It even feels good to feel my legs again." Ethan stepped closer to the wheelchair. "Emily, do you want to try standing up?" Everyone held their breath. It was a big step, maybe too big. "I want to try," she said firmly. Mr. Thompson and Jennifer positioned themselves on either side of the chair, ready to catch their daughter if she fell. Ethan stood in front of her, holding out his hands. "Slowly," Ethan guided. "Use your arms to support yourself on the chair and try shifting your weight to your legs little by little." Emily took a deep breath and began to rise. First, she leaned fully on her arms, then gradually started transferring her weight to her legs. They trembled but didn't give way. "Guys," she whispered, "I'm standing." It was true. Emily was standing, leaning slightly on the chair, but supporting her own weight. Jennifer began to cry with emotion. Mr. Thompson couldn't believe his eyes, and Ethan smiled with a fatherly pride that didn't match his 9 years of age. "Now, I'm going to try taking a step," Emily announced. "Are you sure?" Mr. Thompson asked, concerned. "Yes." "Ethan, can you stand right here in front of me? If I fall, you'll catch me." Ethan positioned himself a step away from Emily, arms outstretched. "I've got you," he promised. Emily let go of the chair with one hand, then the other. For a few seconds, she stood without any support. Then, with determination, she lifted her right foot and took a shaky step toward Ethan. The step was unsteady, and she nearly lost her balance, but Ethan caught her immediately. "I walked," she shouted. "I took a step." What followed was an explosion of emotions. Mr. Thompson cried and laughed at the same time. Jennifer knelt on the ground, hugging her daughter, and Ethan smiled as if he'd witnessed the greatest miracle in the world. "I want to take more steps," Emily said, clearly euphoric. "Easy, princess," Mr. Thompson said gently. "You just took your first step in 3 months. Let's take it slow." "Your father's right," Jennifer agreed. "You've already done something incredible today. We don't need to push any further." But Emily was determined. With the help of the 3 adults, she managed 5 more steps, one at a time, always supported but using her own legs. When she finally sat back in the wheelchair to rest, she was radiant. "Ethan, did you know this would happen today?" "I knew you were ready. I didn't know if it would be today, tomorrow, or next week, but I knew you'd do it." "How did you know?" "Because you stopped being afraid. When you met your mum and saw she was really here to stay, you didn't have to spend energy protecting your heart anymore. Then all that energy could go to your legs." Jennifer looked at Ethan with deep respect. "Ethan, how can I ever thank you for what you've done for our family?" The boy thought for a moment before answering. "You can help me help other kids. I know a lot of orphan children who are suffering like I did. If you help me, we can make a difference in their lives too." Michael and Jennifer exchanged glances, and Michael nodded. "Ethan, are you saying that instead of you working for me, the 3 of us can work together to help other children?" "That's right, Mr. Thompson. We can create a project, a place where children who've lost their parents can get help, not just with food and shelter, but also with their sadness and fear." The idea was brilliant and deeply moved both Michael and Jennifer. "Ethan," Jennifer said, "I think you've just given my music a new purpose too. I can teach piano to these children. Music can be a way for them to express what they feel." Emily clapped her hands. "And I can help too. Once I'm walking properly, I can tell other kids how it's possible to heal from sadness that seems impossible to overcome." Ethan smiled, seeing how a family that had been broken just days ago was now united around a common purpose. "Then it's decided," Michael said. We'll create the Ethan Foundation, a place where orphaned children can receive complete care, physical, emotional, and educational. The Ethan Foundation? The boy asked, surprised. Why that name? Because you're the one who taught us that true healing comes from love and honesty, Emily answered, and because you deserve to have your name on something that will help so many people. That night, for the first time in 4 years, Michael, Jennifer, and Emily had dinner together as a family. Ethan was the guest of honor, and Margaret prepared a special meal for the occasion. During dinner, Emily managed to walk to the table with assistance, but using her own legs. It was extraordinary progress for just one day. "Mom," she said midway through the meal, "are you going to stay here in this house?" Jennifer looked at Michael before answering. "If your father agrees, I'd like to stay, at least until you're walking completely well, and then, well, we'll talk about the future. Michael, who had spent 4 years nursing bitterness and resentment, heard himself say, "Jennifer, this is your home too. It always has been." The answer surprised even him, but he realized it was true. Watching Jennifer interact with Emily, seeing how much the little girl had improved with her mother's presence, Michael understood that his family worked best when it was whole. Ethan, observing the family dynamic, asked an important question. "And how will you handle the tough feelings? Because there will be days when Mr. Thompson gets angry at Mrs. Thompson for leaving, and days when she'll feel guilty, and days when Emily will be confused by it all." The question was direct and necessary. "You're right, Ethan," Jennifer agreed. "It won't be easy. We'll have to learn to be a family again. But the difference is that now we'll be honest about how we feel," Michael added. "No more lies to protect anyone. If we're angry, we'll say we're angry. If we're scared, we'll say we're scared." Emily nodded. "And if we're happy, we'll say we're happy without being afraid the happiness will disappear." Ethan smiled, pleased with the family's resolutions. "That's right, and when you have tough problems to solve, you call me. I become an expert in complicated issues." Everyone laughed, and for the first time in a long while, the Upper East Side mansion was filled with the sound of a genuinely happy family. In the weeks that followed, Emily's progress was steady and impressive. She went from taking a few assisted steps to walking alone in her room, then around the house, and finally in the garden. The Ethan Foundation quickly moved from paper to reality. Michael used his business connections to secure a suitable building. Jennifer organized a music therapy program, and little Emily, still in recovery, helped plan recreational activities for the children. Ethan became much more than an advisor to the Thompson family. He became a part of it. Michael arranged for his legal adoption, and the boy moved into the mansion with his own room and enrollment in an excellent private school. But Ethan never forgot his roots. Every afternoon after school, he went to the foundation to work with the orphaned children who arrived needing the same kind of help he had given Emily. 6 months after their first meeting at the hospital, Emily had not only fully regained her ability to walk, but had also developed remarkable emotional maturity. She became the Foundation's little ambassador, sharing her story with other families facing similar struggles. Michael and Jennifer reconciled their marriage, but in a different way, more mature, more honest, built on the people they had become during their years apart. "Ethan," Emily said one morning as they played in the garden, "you saved our family." "No, Emily," Ethan replied with the wisdom the whole family now recognized in him. "I just helped you save yourselves. The strength was inside you all along. And now? Now we use that strength to help others find theirs." Emily smiled and ran through the garden, her strong, healthy legs carrying her with the joy she had regained, along with her ability to walk. Michael and Jennifer, watching from the porch, held hands. They knew they had been given a second chance that many families never receive, and they owed that chance to a 9-year-old boy who had turned his pain into wisdom and his wisdom into love. The Ethan Foundation thrived beyond all expectations. In its first year, it served over 200 orphaned children, offering not just shelter and education, but also the emotional care Ethan had taught them was as important as physical care. And Emily never had trouble walking again. Her legs, once paralyzed by emotional pain, now carried her to the foundation every day. where she helped other children discover that even seemingly impossible wounds can heal. The end. Now tell me, what did you think of this story of resilience and love? Do you think Michael and Jennifer made the right choices in giving their family a second chance? And Ethan, did this wise little boy remind you of someone special in your life? Leave a comment sharing which part moved you the most, and don't forget to like this story. Subscribe to the channel so you won't miss other heartwarming tales.